Hello and welcome to the FA's Football and Me Series 3. I'm Zoe Smale and I'm excited to be joining you from St George's Park, the home of England football. And in this episode, we are talking about para football. Across the series, we'll be showcasing great examples of equality, diversity and inclusion in all its forms across the beautiful game, with deep conversations with football representatives from coaching, players, volunteers and many more. Talk about the important topics of the game. Football is the nation's #1 sport and has the power to bring people together. So let's celebrate all that unites us as well as what makes us unique. I am joined by three plus a dog, incredible people within the sport of football. I've got Selina Prieto, player for England Women's Blind Squad. I've also got Azim Amir, England Men's Blind Squad player, and Liam Drake, the FA's Para Talent Inclusion Lead. Welcome today. I'm going to come over to you first, Liam. What is Para Talent Inclusion and what does your role entail?
So my role effectively is the first step for a player on our talent pathway, that link, if you like, between grassroots and para talent. The talent inclusion element is trying to make sure that all of our pathways and squads are representative of society. So whether that's race, religion, gender, socio-economic background, just making sure that we've got opportunities for all. So we often use a phrase that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. So it's trying to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. Everybody that's eligible to play for one of our 7 para squads has the opportunity to come into that pathway, see where they sit within that pathway and progress through. We're currently doing a lot of work at the minute around player insights, trying to find out what the demographic of our pathway and our programmes actually look like, so we can get that baseline and then look to increase and make sure that we fill the gaps where we identify them.
How does the pathway work?
My role is around that initial talent identification. So a player will come into a programme that I run. That we have England Talent Days. There's other projects and programmes that we run that young players come into as a first step on the pathway. If they're identified as having talent at that point, then we'd refer them on to the next step, which we've got 14 talent hubs around the country, operated by county FAs or local community clubs. Best players in our para-talent hubs are then invited into a regional emerging talent programme, which meets around about 4 or 5 times a year on a North, Midlands and South basis. And then the best players in the regional programme go into our national emerging talent programme. So players can come in from 6 years of age all the way through to 16. National Emerging Talent Programme then extends that to 19, and then players at the top end of that are potentially moving into our development squads and senior squads. It's slightly different for the power chair game and maybe even the blind game a little bit as well, because they have more bespoke pathway. What we're always trying to do is encourage our players to play mainstream football where possible. So 75% of the players in our pathway are playing mainstream football, which means that they're really stretching and challenging themselves in their kind of home playing environments. As I say, it's slightly different for the blind players and the power chair players, where they get their football through their specific leagues. We're talking around about 50% of the players in our senior squads have come through our talent pathway, so we have a real good success rate in terms of the players that are coming through. And it's not going to be the same for every player. We've got players like Matty Crossan, who's our CP captain, Kate Bowers in the deaf women, who were identified slightly later in life. They were probably beyond the age profile of the talent pathway, so they came straight in at senior squad level because of the level that they were already playing at. And then we've got other players who've come all the way through our talent pathway, all the way through from those England Talent Days, regional centres, and all the way through every step to, or most of the steps to then go on and play for a senior squad.
Brilliant, amazing. Selina, I'm going to come to you just to kind of tee up from what Liam said. Tell us about your journey in football. How did it all start?
Well, it's not been a normal journey, I guess, for most people. So football hasn't always been on my radar. I mean, I did try out for the football team at primary school because I didn't get on the netball team, and I didn't get on the football team either. But after that, I didn't have an interest in football at all. It was actually athletics. is where my sporting career started, and running was what I loved. There was no such thing as a women's blind football team until probably 2022. And when I first heard about that, that's when my interest sparked about, my athletics career. I'd achieved some things, but I was struggling with injury and not getting back to the level that I wanted. So I thought, football, it's running with a ball, how hard can it be? So I decided that I'd take it up at the age of 34, and it's gone pretty well.
You've brought with you Riley today. What part does Riley play within the football setup or day to day? How does he play a role?
Well, Riley's my second guide dog. I've had him for about just over 5 years now, and I think generally having a guide dog and that confidence that it gives you with regards to your mobility when you can't see, compared to having to use a cane, is like second to none. To be able to walk at pace around obstacles and not into them is generally increased my confidence. I don't tend to bring him to England camps because he'd be a bit of a distraction. He comes to my West Brom training and someone holds him for me, but he gets quite excited by football. He's quite a good dribbler himself if you let him get on the ball. But I think just generally, like, as I said, the confidence that a guide dog can give you definitely then plays a part into how me being able to run freely around the football pitch. I have no fear, if you like. And I wouldn't have, gained that fearlessness without a guide dog.
Amazing, thank you. And Azim, coming to you, tell us about your journey into football.
So I grew up, firstly my visual impairment was something that I was presented with at birth. So I grew up in a very mainstream environment, never really had come into contact with any person with a disability, let alone a person who was blind or visually impaired. And growing up, I think school would always get creative with trying to find sports that were able to be accessible and would allow me to take part. But football was the sport that I loved, but it was only until the age of 12, 13 that I actually came across the sport of blind football. And not only did it change my life, but it has presented me with so many kind of opportunities on and off the pitch. A little bit about kind of how that opportunity came about. There was an opportunity to experience different Paralympic sports. So I went along and someone said, there's this blind game called blind football, and my first perception was like a load of blind people playing football, that's like a recipe for disaster. But slowly we actually understood that, everybody's actually the same. When you're playing, you're wearing a blindfold, which ensures that all the players are the same, and that made a massive difference to me because it was the first time I felt that I was playing on an even playing field. And then the journey just started from there to kind of playing with my ears and not my eyes, and slowly progressing through the structure and into kind of what I do now.
Amazing, thank you so much. And to come back to you, Liam, then, because obviously your role is the pinnacle in helping to provide these opportunities. How much has the para game changed in the sort of last 25 years?
I think one of the major changes is we've got so many more playing opportunities for the players now. 2023, we had every one of our 7 squads had a major championship, a world or a European championships, and we've actually got the potential in the next few years to even exceed that. There's more playing opportunities. I think the coverage of those playing opportunities is greater, both internally from the FA and also externally by the international federations themselves. The vision around the game, allowing people to see the games is much greater. It's become more professionalised as well. I mean, particularly with us within the FA now, the way we operate is that we have camps every 2 weeks, so we're in twice a month, which allows us to work with the players from a tactical perspective, as groups, as units, as a team, rather than always having to work on technical elements. So the players should be doing that away from camp in their own football environments, and when they come on camp with us, we're able to work with them as a team, and that means that we're able to make those strides, those little 1% gains each camp that could potentially take us to the next level. So yeah, I think there's been a huge amount of visibility around the para game, massively helped by London 2012 all those years ago, but obviously the Paralympics that have taken place since. But parasport's not just about the Paralympics, and it's growing so much more outside of that as well, would say, for us personally, with World and European Championships happening quite often.
So much. It's so amazing to hear how it has really grown, especially with like the London 2012. I'm going to kind of come back over to you, Selina, for people that might be watching this, that might be kind of really new to football, really new to blind football. Can you explain what blind football is? How does it work?
So blind football is five-a-side football. You have 4 outfield players that are visually impaired. In the women's game, it's slightly different to the men's game. The men have to be B1 players, which means very low vision or no vision, whereas in the female game, because it's so new and to get females into it, you can be partially sighted. But to make it a level playing field, everyone wears blindfolds. Your goalkeeper is sighted, and they also act as a guide. There's also 2 other guides on the pitch, one at the halfway line who will shout instructions, and then one behind the goal to help you know when to shoot. The ball is audible, so the players can hear it. You have to shout the word "voy" before you go and tackle, to basically let the player know that you're coming. And there's kickboards around the outside of the pitch, which helps to keep the ball in play.
So Liam, a crucial part of the game is the ball. Can you give us an insight into the football that's used?
Yeah, so as you can hear, the ball's got audible sound to it, which is created by ball bearings that are inside the ball, and the metal plates, which are inside the leather. But I'll pass it over to Azim, and he can tell you a little bit more about what it's like to play with.
Yeah, so it's a variation of a futsal ball, and it's slightly heavier than a normal football, and like Liam mentioned, the ball bearings in the panels will rattle when shaken, and it's through that audio we're able to locate it. And you know, again, it's different variations of ball, there's different variations of surface, different kind of boards that we use, different kind of goals. Like, I think for us that adaptability is massive, and obviously the audio is huge, but we've played in some interesting conditions, and I think the biggest thing for us is like adapting. So even when we're training, we'll train with a ball which has minimal ball bearings, which is like has been played with previously, so it's a bit battered, or you know, it's got minimal sound, so that, you know, if we can control a ball which has barely any ball bearings, the hope is that we'll be able to control a brand new ball when we are playing. Same with the size of the ball. You know, sometimes we utilize and use a smaller sized ball, and the hope is that if you can control a smaller sized ball, when we're back to kind of match size, kind of match ball size, hopefully it'll be easier.
As a disability awareness advocate, what work do you do to encourage blind para football participation?
So I've been very fortunate to complement my football journey. Alongside that, set up my own organisation, Learn with the SS, and it's all about delivering awareness training. But it's kind of an arm of that, as the awareness was being kind of worked on, impact work, and the whole idea of how we can, on our journey, showcase the sport to as many people as possible, and not just specific to blind football or disability sport, but showcase as many Paralympic sports to as many young people who might have never heard of it. You know, I think that's one problem within our society, today's society, is that there could be someone who might have a visual impairment, hearing impairment, physical impairment, that have never actually heard of a specifically adapted sport that they could not only could take part in recreationally, but to excel within that in that pathway to an elite level. So for me, a big part of my work on a day-to-day basis is partnering with clubs, whether that be within the Premier League or the EFL. A lot of that within their foundation structures of these clubs, around delivering festivals, workshops, all to do with kind of just showcasing that there's this sport, there's this opportunity there, but then also creating structures within that to signpost. So that might be, after school sessions, that might be monthly kind of opportunities to take part in recreational sessions. So that I think the awareness work tied into the impact work is massive for me, and I take a lot of kind of privilege in showcasing something that someone did once for me. One day someone showcased me the sport and it changed my life, and my hope is if I can do that to someone else, and with the amazing team that I have of individuals join my mission of doing this, through them or through myself, hopefully it will change other people's lives as well.
Yeah, there's so much power in community, and what you're doing is amazing to raise that awareness. Liam, I'm going to kind of come to you, because ultimately Azim is doing a lot of work kind of on the ground to really build that visibility and those sessions and opportunities, the allyship, the training. But actually, when we look at the progression through from grassroots to the pathway, what do you think can be done to continue the para agenda at the FA?
We talked earlier on about kind of the coverage that the FA give to para football, and that has increased massively in the last few years, thanks to Andy Gurlis and his team around the FA, where we're featured so much on the social media and on the website and everything that the FA does around the coverage that they provide, and even more so when we've got training camps or tournaments going on as well. So I think that's massive. I think the other bit is just around raising awareness and profile of the game internally but externally. So there's this, I always make the joke that we are the FA's best kept secret, and I think that we need more people to know more about what exists, and that's people within the FA who can then spread the word, but also people outside of the FA, those that love football, maybe have an impairment, are eligible to be a part of the programme, and yeah, I think that the FA are helping massively to do that, but also, say, people like Azim, Selina, who can be that kind of aspirational role model for young people to look up to. We're trying to do quite a bit of work at the minute around players' journey through football, but then what happens when they finish playing. So some of our players are on apprenticeships or kind of programs to get them from player to practitioner. So if they want to go on and be a coach or do something else within the game, which hopefully raises the profile of what young players coming through the system can aspire to be, both during their involvement in the game, but also beyond that as well. Hopefully if players can see it, they can be it, and these guys are the role models that will hopefully help raise that profile as well.
And speaking of aspirational people, Selina, I'm going to come over to you, because humble brag, represented your country in the Commonwealth Games and Para-Lions. I'd like to ask you a personal question around what's been the proudest moment in your career so far? You started at 34, I believe. You said about 34 when you found...
For football, yeah. I mean, I've been doing athletics a lot longer than that.
Let's stick to football. So what's been your proudest moment so far in football?
It's probably a bit of a cliche, maybe. Maybe lots of people say it, but actually my first start for England was pretty special. We're very fortunate that the World Games were in, I say fortunate, we're fortunate that the World Games were in Birmingham, which, I mean, isn't a nice sunny destination to go to, but it was a home games. And for that to be my first major tournament was special. I went to it, I'd only been on the England squad literally for weeks, a couple of months at most. And I went to that tournament thinking, I'll be lucky to get some minutes on the pitch. They did bring me on at half-time in our first match against Japan. And then the next day we played Morocco, and I was actually shocked when they said I'd be starting. Just standing there, in the full England kit, national anthem, that was pretty special.
I love that. Liam, I'm going to come over to you. How do we ensure that any players with any form of disability, especially from those historically underrepresented communities, how can we ensure that they benefit from football?
I think we've got to be innovative, we've got to be creative. We were looking at trying to take opportunities to people rather than expecting them to come. So as I said earlier on, we're doing some data insights work to try and find out who are the people in our programme, and then where we might be missing other people where we might have gaps to fill. So I think that's one of the things, looking at, inner city areas, areas of rurality, areas of socio-economic deprivation. How can we get those opportunities to those young people and try and break down some of those barriers that exist to try and get more people involved? As I said earlier on, if people can see something, then they can become something, and giving people those aspirational role models to, if we get 1 or 2 players coming through the programme who can have an impact on a young person that they go, well, they're from the same city I am, or they're from the same area I am. If they can do it, so can I. So I think there's very much a lot of that work is being done by some of these guys around me, they're the players that come through, they're the people that young players now want to be, they're the heroes. And that helps us massively, particularly with, as I said earlier on, the kind of visibility that we're getting around blind football now, that the people get to see these guys more often, and hopefully aspire to become them.
Selina, I'm going to come over to you. You're currently expecting, about to have a baby. Congratulations. Have you thought about football and how that's going to be encompassing once you are a new parent?
Pretty much through this whole pregnancy, the football's been continuous. I've trained throughout, even up to now. I'm 8 months pregnant and I'm still training. So I'm hoping what I've banked, even though I'm slowing down quite a lot with regards to it, is going to help me when I come back. Obviously, I have no idea what it's like to be a parent yet, and I know it's going to be tiring, but I very much plan on getting back training as soon as I can, and my goal is to go to the World Championships in October, which are in India. That basically gives me 6 months, roughly, once baby comes, to get back fit and ready for that. And I like a challenge. I think it will be a challenge, but I'm up for it.
What is your message to young para players who want to follow in your footsteps? And I'm going to come to you, Azim, to kick us off with that one.
I think opportunity, like giving something a go. I remember when I first rocked up, having no idea what the sport was, and how that one day, just giving something a go, taking a punt, changed my life. And I think that's the biggest thing, just not just within the football sphere, but just in general in life, to just give things a go, because you never know what it will bring.
Yeah, absolutely. That sometimes taking a calculated risk, it pays off the other way. And Selina, coming to you, it's the same question. What is your message to young para players who want to follow in your footsteps?
I think I always say sport really doesn't care who you are. It's like it doesn't care if you've got a disability or anything. Sport is for everyone. And again, it is just give it a go. You never know. You don't have to be playing for your country. You can just be doing it for enjoyment. What sport can give you is so much. Like, I'd be lost without it.
And Liam, coming to you, what is one key takeaway that somebody tuning into this can take away from our session today?
I think we often talk in the para programme about players coming in and being looked at for their ability over their disability. Players with an impairment might have achieved in sport or in school or in life in spite of their impairment. Actually, some of the opportunities they get with us are because of that impairment, and hopefully that allows them to embrace it and kind of really own who they are and explore who they are. A great quote I always use is one that comes from a video that we filmed a couple of years ago, and Zara Muska, who's our deaf women's captain, finishes that video with, "We are the players who won't let our impairment define us." And I think that really sums it up for me. It's about your ability, not your disability.
That's such a powerful statement to finish on, so thank you. Thank you to my 3 guests. I really have enjoyed listening to your stories. I feel so inspired, and I'm really loving how much I understand more around the para disability pathway. So thank you so much, everybody.